Combat minigames in Free Realms were divided into two categories, battles and dungeons. While you probably remember dungeons more, battles were activated by talking to NPCs, and they also weren't represented on the World Atlas. For example, Bixie's Gone Wild and Frostfang Snarlers. On the other hand, dungeons were the places where you would actually go to a location, there would be a gate, like a cave entrance or a door, the battle sign above it, and you could see them on the world map. So in this series, we're only going to be talking about dungeons, not actual battles. But the reason I'm telling you this is because in today's episode, we actually are going to have two separate categories. There's 8 level 1 dungeons, the easiest level, but 4 of them are more similar to battles than they are dungeons, because they're just like a small room. There's no actual walking around like you would in a standard dungeon, but they are technically dungeons because they're not activated from NPCs. So those 4 are going to come first just because they're shorter and generally less interesting than the fully fledged out dungeons. So with that, we'll get started with number 8. In the 8th spot is Cursed Graveyard. This dungeon is the first of the ones that's more like a battle because you enter, it's just one room, you talk to the main NPC and it's a boss, and then it's over. In fact, the video that I found of this dungeon is going to be shorter than the time it takes me to explain the dungeon to you. And the reason it's going to be in 8th place is also because it doesn't offer a tutorial. The other short dungeons like this, they at least tell you how to use your primary, secondary abilities and your power-up. This one's, it's just a boss, so it doesn't really help new players, but it also is way too easy for more experienced players. Next up is Hueys Escape. This was similar. It has a slightly more interesting story. Huey the bear is escaping from the zoo, and you basically have to beat him up for some reason so that he'll calm down, I guess. So this one offers a tutorial, which is unlike previously mentioned Cursed Graveyard. But, yeah, you know, beating up animals that aren't even evil is a little bit frowned upon, especially in today's social climate. So, I mean, that's one of the only points I could think to differentiate it from the next two, so we'll put it in 7th place for now. Number 6 is King of the Ring. This is like the ultimate tutorial battle, probably the first one you're going to be introduced to, especially around 2009 when the game was first released. And also, while it doesn't have a super exciting story, it's just a 1v1 brawl with this dude named Mongo, it does have a Karate Kid reference.
Sweep the leg.
Mongo. Sheepwatch is the last of the more battle-like Tier 1 dungeons, but this one is more interesting because it does something unique that no other dungeon in the game does, actually. It's got wolves that attack other NPCs in the dungeon, namely the sheep, but it's kind of a very interesting AI behavior, how the wolves don't directly attack the player right away. Very interesting. I can't remember off the top of my head if there's any other dungeons like that. Also, kind of like Hueys Escape, you're beating up animals, but this time they're evil animals because they're attacking the sheep. So that makes it okay, right? Maybe? Anyways, it's a unique concept. Still not a fully fleshed out dungeon, but I think it's more unique than the previously mentioned 3. Finally, here's the first of the fleshed out dungeons, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That's the only phrase I could really think to describe these. Cracked Claw Caverns. Don't say that too fast, I keep messing it up. This one was in Bristlewood. I'm gonna restart that. This one was in Blackspore, and I remember it being in Seaside, but I was actually mixing it up with Cray Caves, which is another dungeon, a 5 tier 1 in Seaside. This one was in a cave, had some cool lighting, had a really cool looking boss with like a lantern sticking out of his back. But other than that, it's a very standard cave. In the side quest was like, you had to find these 6 guys or something. I can't even remember because it wasn't interesting. But besides the cool looking boss, there's not too much going on here. Fixie Hive has the player help Queen Bee from Mario Galaxy, also known as Bixie Queen, to protect her throne from Drone Foz, an evil military Bixie Bee guy. And it doesn't take place in a normal cave. This one takes place in a cave with honey and bee hive things in it. So it gets points for looking a little bit more unique than your standard in a cave dungeon, which is a lot of dungeons, especially in tier 1. Like all of these are in caves. The last one and the next 3 are all going to be in caves. So this one gets points for looking not just like a cave, I guess. And it has an interesting story. The side quests aren't too interesting. You should have to save some more Bixie workers. And yeah, I'm pretty comfortable putting it here. Tavern Cellar is basically just Brad Pitt's Fight Club, and in the dungeon description it says that the hooligan leader Cal moved into the cellar. Now his thugs are causing ruckus all day long. So the only reason this is even a dungeon is because these guys are making too much noise, I guess? Like, nothing wrong with having a fight club, I guess, which makes sense. I don't know how this world works. It's your world. You can do whatever you want to. Anyways, I have memories of this dungeon. That's why I'm putting it so high. It doesn't look as exciting as Fixie Hive. There's nothing exciting aesthetically. It's just a cave. And also, I remember hearing that this one was easy to grind for XP. So even if you're a higher level, you could just keep doing this dungeon over and over again in order to grind your classes to level 20. So it gets some points for that too. What is with Sacred Grove and noise complaints? Anyways, better resort to violence again. And yes, this is my favorite dungeon, not because of the silly premise. Umari, the chief of the Yetis, took over Hot Springs Haven, and he makes a lot of noise. So basically, there's these boomboxes around that you have to destroy, and then there's a really cool looking boss at the end too. Aesthetically, this place is super pleasing. It is a cave, but it is unique in that it has hot springs. It's got a lot of ice everywhere, so it's not just like a bland cave like Tavern Cellar. And like Tavern Cellar, I also have a lot of memories of this one. This is probably one of the dungeons I completed the most with lots of different classes. And it's in Snow Hill, like right? People's favorite area besides Seaside. Yeah, so that's all I can really say about Hot Springs Haven. I feel like a lot of people would agree that this one or Tavern Cellar was their favorite. But I don't know. I'm excited to see what people's opinions are, what they think about different ones, and that's going to be it. I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet because I want to see what people think in the comments as well. So if you have a difference in opinion, please tell me. I want to see it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.